Friends, welcome to my studio. Today I am going to talk about colored pencil technique, mainly color. Let's go. When we begin realistic drawing in colored pencil, our aim is to copy what we see in front of us or in a reference. And beginners in colored pencil drawing pay attention to small things like details and textures, and believe me, they are important. However, they become very important only when the basic drawing is in place. If you begin shading one spot and forget about the rest of your composition, you might end up having the colored pencil drawing that has no consistency or unity in color harmony and composition. Today I'm going to show you a few strategies I often use designing my pieces using color to create mood and atmosphere in colored pencil drawing. So let me give you some ideas how to use color harmony in colored pencil drawing, so you can eventually discover your own unique approach to drawing. While color wheel isn't everything for colorful pencil drawing, you do need to know the basic definitions and color triads. I'm not gonna focus on this basic information today. It's available online widely, including my art blog. I'm just gonna brush through some definitions. Hue means color, like red, green, yellow. Value means how light or dark the shading is. Chroma is the color strength or color intensity, because colors can be super intense or muted. So when they're muted, they have low chroma. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. Color intensity is the saturation or purity of a color. Neutralized color is the color with less intensity, that's either grayed down or mixed with its complement. And finally, local color is the natural color of an object as it appears in a daylight, say green of the grass or blue of the sky. So here's the thing about drawing. Art students see only local colors in objects rather than the colors of light and reflections on the objects. This means that whenever I look at any object, I see a variety of color in it, not just the local color. And I'd like to mention the use of grays. Colored pencils don't mix to gray on their own, unlike oil or acrylic paint, and that's why I use gray colored pencils to neutralize the color. So what I have very few dominant colors in the drawing, and the rest of them are less color intense. Whenever you decide your art pieces, first thing you need to look at is the overall idea or color harmony design in your drawing. Decide on the overall color scheme. Is it light or dark? Is it monochromatic or in full color? So how do you decide, right? Look at the main reference to see one dominant color and make that color your main focus in your colored pencil drawing. Everything else should be less color intense. For example, in my drawing, I decided to create high contrast image using purples and blues as cool colors and the yellows and white as warmer colors to create this juxtaposition of two major color groups. Okay, second thing that you must do is to test your colored pencils to decide on your best color harmony. Before I begin drawing, I take my colors and I shade with them a little bit just to see what colors I get, thinking of the overall color scheme. For instance, when I tested my colored pencils using purples, I wanted to see how light or dark they are because only the dark ones worked for my drawing. Tip number 3 is to keep it very simple to create consistent color harmony. And this means that you need to shade all shadows in one color first. Many art students just love to jump around the picture using a variety of colored pencils. It's not necessary. You create unity and consistency of color by limiting yourself with very few choices. For example, in my case, I used a very dark purple to shade the background. That was my major color. And I used, turquoise blue color as the color of the shadow on the dog. I added a lot more color over that later on, but that was my start. Tip number 4 is to add more tested colors to develop contrast in your color harmony. Most colors are warm and cool, and this includes reds, greens, blues, and even grays. So some are neutral like browns. You must consider how light or dark they are. You can create a very dark shadow using light pink. You cannot shade around the highlight with a dark blue, right? Because dark blue is too dark for shading in the light. So you need to remember that. And build contrast by having a range of tones in your colored pencil drawing, going from very light colors to very dark ones. Tip number 5 is to look at your colored pencil drawing from a distance. You lose all the details by looking at your art from the distance. You do see the inconsistencies in color, awkward shapes, weak shadows and highlights, or undefined edges. If you consider all these 5 tips, you will be able to draw a photorealistic colored pencil drawing that has unity in color. Like to talk about using color harmony to create unique and personal colored pencil drawings. And I'd like to share my approach to using color harmony. I think it may be useful for advanced artists interested in colored pencil art. And the thing is, you need to start with a good idea what colored pencil drawing you want to create. The idea is a visual story in color, subject, or light. It doesn't have to be the figure. It could be one object displayed in a unique light, rotation, or point of view in the drawing. This is the artistic vision and interpretation of a boring object that becomes fun to look at. Because of your unique interpretation of it. You can train yourself to see the world more creatively by improving your photography, reading, looking at art and contemporary art. Personally, I have a folder where I save my art ideas to learn from other artists. I study unique color choices, composition, and subject. Sometimes the subject isn't new, but the approach to drawing it is totally unique. My personal idea starts from my imagination, reading, travel, emotions, and thoughts. Usually, I make written notes on my phone describing the idea, materials I might use, and basic concepts. Number 2 is to pick high quality references for your drawing. I usually take my pictures myself with the Nikon camera, and I have a giant folder on my computer. But sometimes it's difficult to find a specific photo, or if you don't have one, you can go to Pixabay or Unsplash or FreePic and find copyright-free images for your art. And I think the toughest thing is to pick the right reference, because all of the pictures that you collect, they need to connect with each other in light and color temperature, and this is the hardest thing to master. I think it's easier to do in colored pencil, but it's really hard to do a realistic oil painting from different references. Next, I decide on my color harmony, using very few colors as the leading colors. And after that, I pick the surface for my specific color harmony. And I usually draw on colored paper. Sometimes I draw on whiteboards, and you can see me doing this drawing on a whiteboard, but I consider my surface before I begin drawing. Tip number 5 is to have, you need to have consistent shading in your colored pencil drawing, because a lot of times this is a very common mistake. When shading is uneven, it just confuses the eye and it doesn't look good. So shade right to the edge, overlap the edges, using soft colored pencils like Prismacolors, Luminance, Pablos, and many more. And finally, you can learn a lot more about color and color harmonies by taking my video course, where I explain the properties of color and how you can design your images around specific color schemes. I share my secret picking a perfect color scheme for my colored pencil drawings every single time. So go to my website veronicasart.com and click on video courses at the top menu. Thank you so much. I'd like to talk about markers. I tried and tested a lot of them, and I've been searching for a permanent acrylic marker that would mix well with my colored pencil drawing, and I think I found one. It comes in various colors, and some of them are not very bright, and I like that a lot. And it is by a German brand, Molotov, and it's called One for All Acrylic Twin Marker. I bought several of these. They have dual tips. One is 1.5 millimeters and another one is 4 millimeters. So you could either do a fairly fine detail or cover the surface with a wider tip. The design is interesting because you can refill them. I've never tried it, but I would probably do so in the future. They are quite pricey. Usually I use a fine tip to place small highlights in my drawing. And finally I get to my final stage of drawing, when everything is covered and I can work on finer details, transitions between the tones, textures, and the definition of some edges and shapes. This process is no less consuming than the first stage, but I think it gets really fun at this point because I can finally get into some details and the effects, the visual effects that I'd like to achieve in my drawing. In order to do so, I have to keep my colored pencils super sharp to create fine lines, and I often use heavy pencil pressure to do so because the surface gets filled in with every new layer of color. Here's an awesome tip for you. If the surface becomes too waxy, step outside and spray your drawing lightly with a final fixative. I also used a workable fixative that's designed precisely for that, to spray the drawing in between the layers to fix it. It's useful for charcoal and graphite pencil drawing, but I find that the workable fixatives don't work the same way as the final one does. So I recommend to spray with a very light coat of final fixative, let it dry, and then you can go in and draw over it again. The surface becomes more even hardens to a certain degree, which I like. I can layer a lot more color on top, and also it fixes the lower levels of color, so it doesn't smudge at all. And as I keep shading and defining the shapes, I increase my pencil pressure. It is very important to press on your pencil some more to create enough contrast necessary to to build a high contrast picture. And you can guess that white colored pencil doesn't show up on drawing on white paper, so I use it mainly to soften the edges and transitions between the light colored pencils and white. That's how I use colored pencil, white colored pencil. I appreciate you watching this video. If you have a specific question, please leave it in the comments below this video. And also you'll find some links to products, my books, and references you can use in your art. Thank you. And thanks so much for watching, guys, and sharing my video with your friends. It means a lot to me. It takes a gazillion of hours to produce a single video, and I hope it is helpful, because otherwise I don't know why I'm doing this. Other than that, I wish you to have a very creative week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.